So the iPhone 15 is not getting Apple Intelligence, but it is getting iOS 18, and we're going to face it off against the iPhone 11 in this video, the iPhone 11 versus the iPhone 15 on iOS 18. So let's find out by the end of this video that 6 gigs of RAM, that newer processor makes a massive difference over a much older iPhone. So we'll begin this video with a boot up test in 3, 2, go, and see which one could get there first. Now keep in mind that we do have a RAM problem here for the iPhone series, mostly because of the new Apple Intelligence that's coming. You're going to need at least 8 gigs of RAM, and you're going to need the newer processors. Now there is some new information that came out talking about how Apple was stating that one of the people who represent a certain department was saying that the older iPhones could theoretically run it, but they don't have enough power to run it smoothly. So the Apple Intelligence would be a choppy, laggy experience on the older iPhone. So that's what they are saying. It's not because they want to sell more iPhones, but rather because, you know, of the power demands of the AI. So you've seen that the iPhone 15 did turn on faster than the iPhone 11, but not by a ton on this iOS 18. Okay, so let's check the Face ID here, and you can see it hasn't really changed whatsoever here for iOS 18. Still performing quite well for the iPhone 11. Over here on the iPhone 15, you'll see pretty much similar. Face ID working very well. I actually think it works a little better here for the 15. So yeah, better angles. It's just a little bit snappier for Face ID on the iPhone 15. Now, kind of just generally scrolling through the operating system, when you first boot into the iOS 18 beta for the iPhone 11, it is going to be a little bit slow as it gathers and get things ready. I noticed it was a little bit slower than the 15 when first launching in, but overall, it's not too bad once you're in there, and you could see it does pretty good when generally just going through. Now on all the iPhones, they are a little bit slow here right now on the control center, especially when you go ahead and start adding controls like this, and then you kind of scroll through here, you're going to find lag there. Now this is 60 Hertz, so it's going to be even slower than something like a 15 Pro, although that lag still exists in the control center, even on the 120 Hertz iPhones. Bringing it over here to the 15, as we scroll through here, even though this is 60 Hertz, I don't know if you noticed this, it still feels smoother. So if you did want to upgrade to a 15 from your 11, you're going to have a much smoother iOS 18 experience. But I would wager a lot of people are probably not going to want to update to a 15. They'll probably want to go to a 16 because they know they'll get that Apple Intelligence. Now let's go ahead and hit that plus icon. And you could see, yeah, even choppy in here. Although the control center on before this did look a little smoother than the 11, over here it's a little bit slower. Generally, though, I do think the 15 should, even though it's both the 60 Hertz on the 11 and the 15, I do think this is generally going to run this a little bit better. Overall, though, it's not too different. Even though this phone is much older on the 11, it doesn't feel too different, if I'm being totally real with you. All right, so everything is closed out for both products here. And let's go into calendar, and you can see a little faster there on the right. We'll go into calculator. Definitely faster on the right. When we go into the scientific, pretty much the same. Math notes a little faster there on the right. And I would bet that the math notes when you're doing your equations will probably be a little faster on the 15, a little faster there on the right. So even in basic apps, the 15 is a little faster. Let's go into App Store, and you'll see faster on the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds faster to load up. That was pretty substantial there. And then you could see that was quicker for a weird load there. And you'll see now loading up quicker for the 15. If I hit apps, a little faster for the 15. And so this goes to show, even though you have 60 Hertz on both, the 15 will still feel a little faster. So we'll go to profile page here. We're still waiting on X on the left. And yeah, you can see that the 11 is fine when you're not comparing it side by side with the newer iPhone. Let's go on Instagram. But I got a question for you. Are you like kind of just going to write off all the old iPhones just because they don't get Apple Intelligence? Or do you not really care? Because here's the thing. The iPhones can still run the ChatGPT app. Like, you can still download AI apps. You might not be able to run Apple's on-device intelligence, but you can still use AI on pretty much any iPhone because they all can go to the App Store and download some AI apps like Copilot or you can even download the Chat GPT. And it's not here yet, but I'm assuming Google might bring Gemini app to the iOS eventually, maybe after they've had it out for a while. We'll see how that goes. But you can see in apps, it just seems like the 15 runs along a little smoother, but only by a few seconds. You'll see right there, a little faster there for the iPhone 15. The good news is that the 11 is still usable. 2019 phone, still very usable. I probably wouldn't play too many games on it though, besides some casual stuff. I do think it's a little bit laggy. It just crashed right there. And it's just not my favorite experience. Let's go into Groupon. And you'll see that's faster on the right. Let me hit the categories. And we'll scroll down here to retail. And you'll see pretty similar there. So this is a good example. You see shopping apps and stuff like that. We don't have a massive disparity. So you can still do your general tasking day to day on these for general shopping, messaging, social media, stuff like that without a huge hiccup. Some games though, well, games in general, if you're playing Apple Arcade, if you're playing heavier games, they are far faster on the 15, even though it's still 60 hertz. It's just the processor, GPU, and the RAM all combined make for a much faster experience on the right. Let's go into Dead Trigger 2. And honestly, I'm not sure if the iPhone 11 has slowed down, but it kind of feels like it has. I don't remember it being this far behind, even some newer iPhones. And some people say, well, that's what they always do. They slow them down towards the end. Well, I feel like it's actually the software slowing them down as it gets more powerful, more up to date. It definitely feels like that. You could see just leaps ahead here on the 15. Look at this. I mean, this is a massive difference. And this is kind of like the modern day iPhone 11, the iPhone 15. So if you loved your iPhone 11 and you just want a modern day casual basic iPhone, the 15 will likely make you very happy. Let's go into Free Fire. But at this point, if you want a larger screen, I would definitely recommend waiting for the 16. You're likely going to see a larger screen to a 6.3 inch on the iPhone 16. Now, if you're not into the phones getting bigger and bigger, you're probably not going to like that. But if you are, the 6.3 might be a sweet spot. You seen that little lag coming out of Free Fire? That was pretty noticeable. PUBG. Now, PUBG takes a little bit more demands. So I think we should see it load here first on the iPhone 15. You can see, though, generally speaking, besides a minor crash here and there, iOS 18, even on beta 1, is surprisingly stable. It runs pretty well. You've seen most of the apps, nothing crashed on the 15 so far, which means that you can run it pretty well if you wanted to try out beta. A couple of things will happen here and there, but it's not like it's going to mess up your entire phone experience if you wanted to play around with it. Let's go over here, but be careful. Make sure you do backups if you do download beta. You don't want to lose your data or anything like that. You can see on the right that loaded first, and we'll go into, this is actually mixed here. Let's go into 3D Mark. Not too different. So let's go into Geekbench 6. A little faster on the right. So generally, I feel like it's all about just the games are ahead, and the apps in general just kind of, it's just a little snappier for sure on the iPhone 15. It's kind of very noticeable at this point though. So if you want a pretty sizable jump, the 15 is probably the option to upgrade to. If you want to wait a little bit longer, get Apple Intelligence and a larger screen, you'll definitely want to wait till September. All right, so what I want to do is go ahead and check the customization features, see if when we tint the icons, what happens here. So let me go ahead and just do that, and we'll just leave them like so, and we'll see how they do here. So you see the iPhone 11 having a little bit of troubles with the tint there. So even some of the customization features might be a little slower on the 11. I think though, in general, as we get closer to the polished version, all the phones are going to run this just about correct. And I kind of get why Apple is leaving the intelligence off the older phones now. I mean, some of these little features are already seeming to be a little slower on iOS 18 for older phones. Imagine putting a very demanding AI on some older phones. You're probably going to see a super choppy experience, and Apple probably doesn't want you to experience such a choppy experience on your older phone. Let's go over here to edit, and we'll go to customize again, and we'll just go to automatic, dark, light. You could see everything works pretty well on that front. So let's back it out of there. Now what I want to do is a quick RAM management here. This is a 4 gig of RAM version on the iPhone 11, and typically it starts to reload after about 6 or so apps. So far doing pretty well, and this is kind of shocking. It's doing very well here. Let's go into Amazon. There we go. So about 8 apps, and we're starting to reload. So let's go to Groupon, full reload. So look at this. I mean, if you can't even hold these apps in the background, do you really think the 11 can run Apple Intelligence super smoothly? I think not, because that's more of a background process to begin with. The intelligence works in the background of your phone. So I don't think it would run very well on this device. One thing I do think it would run fine on the 15. I wish they would put it on the base 15. I feel like it would run fine on that device for sure. Like, that's a brand new phone, like 6 gigs of RAM, super powerful processors. The 14 Pro should be able to run it too. I'm not exactly sure about that. I get it, the old phones, but the 14 Pro, 14 Pro Max, the 15, 15 Plus, these should have got that for sure. So you've seen the 11 did have a few hiccups there on the RAM management, but take a look at how smooth this is going through them. It is pretty phenomenal here. So no major issues, and you'll see nothing really reloading. And this is one of the reasons why I really like the 15. You could see, let's go into eBay. You've seen that Best Buy app, it flew into the dynamic island. We'll go in App Store. The App Store was relaunching the content, clock, calculator, and calendar. So incredible performance here for the iPhone 15 in RAM management. All right, and the final Geekbench 6 scores are in, and you can see where we were talking about games and kind of like multitasking, background processes. That's where the multi-core really shines for the iPhone 15 at a 6238, nearly doubling the score of the 11. But you'll see in that single core, 600 points is nothing to like laugh at or anything, but it is a pretty, not a massive jump. It's not even 1,000 points more on a single, which means it kind of confirms what I was saying. The 11 can run your day-to-day casual stuff just fine. Start pushing it a little harder, and it's definitely showing its age. But it kind of has enough performance for what casual use you would use on an iPhone still. So I think most people would be able to make it from now until the 16. They could probably even make it till the 17 if they really, really wanted to push it. So the 11 has held its own. It's definitely showing its age at this point. And on iOS 18, I probably would wait for the 11 for a few downloads, unless it's a side phone, you don't got your SIM in it. But if it's your main phone, I would probably wait till the official releases, we get more polished. Because for the older iPhones, it doesn't seem to be running as good as something like the iPhone 15. So let me know your thoughts on these two right here. Are you going to upgrade your iPhone 11 to a 15? Are you skipping that out now that you learned Apple Intelligence is not coming there? Are you going to a Pro or a 16? Are you keeping your 11 for a year? And if you have the 15, how do you feel about the whole lack of intelligence coming here? Do you feel like you were cheated, or basically like annoyed that you just bought this phone and it's already not going to get one of their latest and brand new features? I'm kind of annoyed myself. I think it's ridiculous. I just paid like almost $1,000 for this, and I paid over $1,000 for the 15 Plus. I'm kind of annoyed. I'm actually very annoyed by that. Honestly, it really irritates me. But what are you going to do? You know, sometimes the products, things come out and they don't have the power to run it. So let me know your thoughts down below. Thumbs up if you enjoyed this comparison, and let me know if you want to see any more comparisons down below in the comments. I'll catch you on the next one. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.